Welcome to our live board meeting, where we talk about OmniWin solutions, i.e. TogetherTec, how we can create a tech cooperative that supports all of our projects and humanity and our individual lives while working on our own individual projects. So we have some things on the agenda today, and I'm going to try to stay muted when I'm not talking, which means other people will need to be unmuted and talking. Where is the agenda? So the team up one, who's the one who found that? That seems like a cool option. We definitely wanted a calendar that I was just briefly looking at it for literally the 30 seconds before we went live. It says for small teams. I'm not sure. Sorry, I have way too many things open, as is usually my issue.
So, Carrie, you suggested that. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, well, that sounds awful. Yeah, I just found it because what I was going to do was put all the board meetings and the Saturday round tables and anything else that came up through the project group on that calendar. And also, I thought it'd be a good idea because, as I said, I forget when things are happening, and if you put the dates and the links there, and then add it to the welcome document and the document that's in the files area. And I had another idea. Don't know whether you want me to talk about that now, but but as I said, it's for small teams and it's free forever, which I kind of liked, and it gives you 2 calendars. But also, I think other people could join up, and then I can add them to the calendar so they can add whatever stuff that they're putting on, because I thought that would be a better way, just so it's there so people can actually see in advance. And then the second calendar could be stuff that's happenings in Game B, like the glass bead game and Rule Omega, and stuff that's actually open to people. You can just go and join. I thought that if we put that on maybe on the second calendar, and your solution raisins and whatever else you want, and then have 2 calendars there so people have got a choice. And then maybe we could add, then, as I said, things that are come across in Game B that are going on a regular basis, I could put them on the calendars, and then people can actually see and whether they want. And as I said, the link's there and everything's there. So I don't know what you think about that.
And maybe also that second calendar could be for things like, other project events like Age Reels, just for people that want to do the wiki, see the wiki election, join those meetings. And then we were just talking about another kind of regular weekly meeting that we don't want posted. We don't want everyone posting all their specific events on their specific project in the main discussion feed, but that might be a good place that people can connect to other projects and see what's going on, and a separate calendar from the main one.
Also, I had another idea of an experiment in social cohesion. Is that what you call it? There's this thing called Dave Logan did this talk ages ago about developing triads, and never forgetting that you're Batman. And it's so I was thinking of maybe if people posted about it in the group and asking whether people wanted to take part in this experiment, whereas say for 4 weeks, right, the first conversation. So if people want to do it, talk to 3 people. So take 3 people. I would facilitate the first one, and then let them go and do whatever, and then after that have a comeback and see what they felt, whether they managed, whether they got to know each other better, and take it from there, and just do groups of 3 as an experiment in social cohesion and getting to know each other better. And maybe if I can get someone with a project that's on the go, someone with ideas, and someone who's looking for the project. Well, depending on time zones and things like that. So I was thinking about doing that, and then that could go on the second calendar. So who's having chats with who's, you know what I mean, and then that I think that would be actually quite good, and I think it'd be quite fun as well. So I need to work on questions for the first one, just to break the ice with everybody, because I know people are quite apprehensive about talking to people that they don't know. So maybe do a bit of that. So I don't know what you think about that as well.
I think that's an interesting idea. I think that'd be something worth sharing on the main Game B page to get an idea of how many people would be willing to participate before you put much energy into it. And then we have I guess there's another Game B kind of video discussion group that I don't remember, but I think that's where you're supposed to record a video and post it in the discussion. So that's asynchronous, as opposed to being at the same one. Am I right on that?
You mean Game B Conversations?
Yeah.
Yeah, Game B Conversations has basically become Brent Cooper's, just posts his stuff, his conversations there. I haven't seen anyone else post anything there. Okay. I haven't posted any of my conversations I've had with like Raymond and such. Doesn't mean it won't be revitalized, but it doesn't even have the Game B branch anymore. Like I don't think Richie and I think it was Nick who started it. I have been keeping it up.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's anything like that. We talked a long time ago about creating a system where people could just sign up and it would kind of randomly put 3 people together and stuff, but we never really built that. But Carrie, if you have a little bit of time and energy, a person could do that better than a system. But we just didn't have time, so we were thinking about putting together a system together. But yeah, I think that'd be worth kind of just writing up what you want to do, posting it in the regular Game B group, and seeing who'd participate. I'd probably be willing to participate in one of those.
Do you think it should, if I could put it in the project group first, because as I said, there's quite a few people who I've spoken to who might be so like more warmly accepting of me, and the idea.
As long as you think you'll get enough, at least 3 people in the same time zone. Yeah, I just don't know how much participation we have, but sure, yeah, try it there first.
Well, I was thinking even if they're not in the same time zone, we could, as I said, I could facilitate the meeting regardless, because I don't have to go back to work. Well, I probably won't have a job to go back to till after September anyway. So, and I don't have to go and do anything like that anyway. So I'll post it in the Game B group project earlier first, and then see what's what. And then if there's no takers, I might get brave enough and post it in the main place, and then get run out of town.
You will not get run out of town for asking people if they want to like join up and have a group. That was the kind of thing that is always wanted in Game B. Even if it gets crickets, people are still like, yeah, what a great idea. I'm not coming, but what a great idea.
Yeah, my inner introvert said he'd rather not participate, which means it's a very good idea. So yes, I'll be happy to join.
I have to say, I watched the TED Talk that you referred to about the triads. I liked his Batman waking up. The idea, for people who haven't seen it, is that there's a Batman cartoon where Bruce Wayne is kidnapped and he's waiting for Batman to come and save him. And he doesn't realize that he's Batman. And so then he remembers he's Batman. And the guy's talking about how we all can remember we're Batman, right? Which I find a little weird because Batman's a billionaire. Like, no, we can't all be Bruce Wayne. There's a reason he can do it without superpowers. But at the same time, we all are Batman, and realizing that. But I didn't think he made the case for the triad. Like, he didn't really, like, he didn't give evidence as to why 3. He was just like, 3's the number, except in couples, but you kind of add third relationships in all of the other relationships you have, that the relationship is number 1. I feel like I can't remember his micro-solidarity, whoever does micro-solidarity, Richard Bartlett, makes it better, like the 2s and then the bigger, like his, I don't know, the TED Talk itself, didn't come out of it with like I want a triad. So I feel like your explanation of it was better than his. So maybe
okay,
like link to the TED Talk, which wasn't as strong of a yes, I want a triad as I think, hey, let's just play with it. Let's just try.
Well, as I said, there's a lot of evidence. Well, I don't know whether it's called evidence or whatever, but 3 is a magic number, and it's not just about the song, but it actually is. You know what I mean? Because like everything you do is in threes. Like I've noticed Jordan Hall when he's posting his essays, he'll give you 3 points. So you know what I mean? And even various things are just noticing that it's in threes. You know what I mean? Because apparently, I was reading, and this is from marketing and that you'd have people remember 3 things more than you'll remember 4 or 5. So, although I hate all the marketing stuff, but I just like the idea of 3 people coming together, and it's kind of like the power of 3. Is kind of there's that as well. So it's all kind of mushed in with the
It might be,
micro-solidarity, the power of 3, triads,
yeah.
stuff like that. So it's all kind of mashed up. I
Yeah.
like mashed up things. So, but
It might be part of my wounding, but there's also a real shadow side to triads. Like any little girls hanging out, it's like you have 3 girls, it's going to descend into chaos because 2 of them and they exclude one, and you know what I mean? Like there's something that happens in triads in every movie and every it's like, yes, Harry Potter and Hermione and Ron, but like really it's Ron and Harry, or Harry and Hermione, and then Ron and Hermione get married. But like that, it's like to just say it needs to be 3 so that it's 3. Like I think playing with 3 and then seeing did it work out, right? Like did people show up consistently, or did you end up with one person just showing up or just 2 people showing up, and was that awkward? But start with 3. Just maybe if it doesn't stick with 3, doesn't mean the whole thing is broken. Having 5, having 2, having more.
3 is the lowest number, which is not 2, and when you have 4, you have a group, which is totally different dynamic. But 3 is something like when the 2 people, it's just a dialogue, and it's easy to lose perspective on whatever is going on. But the third, even if it's a spectator only, or observer, or just, it adds certain, it grounds the whole thing. And yeah, there's definitely something about 3.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I try to sort of summarize and explain things, the number 3 shows up a lot. But I think it's also good not to be at all ideological about it. If it's 2, it's 2. If it's 5, it's 5. And there's probably an upper limit. Like if it's 17, maybe try to simplify it a bit. But I think, yeah, there's a difference between saying like it just happens to show up a lot, and that might be something you notice, versus because you notice that now you're always shooting for 3, and if it's not 3, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give it a go and see what happens and that. Because as I said, it could be just a shit show, eh? So I'm just like, I think it'd be quite fun as well. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'll give it a shot and see what's what.
Awesome. What was the other thing on our agenda? Oh, the wiki. That thing's also kind of fallen by the wayside. In fact, the people who were doing the wiki basically said that they were going to delete it. And there's something happening always like down the pipeline for it that never.
So they just stood it back up and got the security fixed. That's why it's coming back up, because it's now in a stable state that could go forward. So they do have a projects page. And so, yeah, I just wanted to talk about, did we want to do anything with that? I think in the least we'd want to add a link to the NAC site and add a link to Carrie's, whenever you're ready, Carrie, with your Drupal site. And then we could just say, these are experimental lists. And then you can also add yourself to the list below, which is on the wiki site. So that's kind of like minimum I would suggest, and I'm happy to do that work. It's not that much. And then the other thing is we could take a look at it, because they have it broken out. I don't like systems where you force a sort on people, and they're breaking up the projects by topic area, which of course is weird because projects often cover multiple topic areas. And then you list your project in the topic area. So I don't know if anyone here who has a project like Wiki Election or Me with Reason Score or Martush's, I don't know if you're going to be talking about your project soon, wants to duplicate it in all 3 places or what. But yeah, that's I just wanted to see what everyone else kind of thought about.
I was wondering what I thought when I looked at it. I thought, okay, so you've got projects that are kind of happening in Game B, and maybe people have got their own projects. And what I didn't want is to put stuff up there because I didn't know whether we could just keep it as a Game B project group, and then maybe list the projects that are coming up within the group, and what everyone was doing. And also the second thing was, if you put a project up there, there's someone going to come along and say, "No, that's not Game B," and then, you're like, "Well, what is Game B?" And they're like, "Well, it's not that." You know what I mean? And I didn't want people to put the stuff up there and then to be told, "Oh, that's not Game B." You know what I mean? So, and like it wasn't clear of what, and I think that's what I was worried about. Like, okay, we've all met in the Game B space, and we're all working on our own stuff, but we're all collaborating together. So we're kind of all being assimilated into the Borg now. You know what I mean? So, and any ideas that to like pop up, like the stuff about the marriage counselling thing with Reese and Alex, that, and you know what I mean? That came and started growing legs when things grow legs. And as I said, if I put that up there, and then they might say, "Oh no, that's not very Game B." You know what I mean? So I think that's what I'm worried about, that people are going to come along and then where would you put things? As you said with the categories, I was just like, well, that's kind of that, and it's kind of that, and is it that? You know what I mean?
Which might be, we might be able to talk to the wiki people, and like if we're taking on projects, we're taking on projects, right? That we are kind of making, which means we're going to have a meeting about it. Like, what is a Game B project? Because you're right, there's ones that we consider a Game B project that probably wouldn't be wiki Game B project, right? It's when people come in and are looking for a project, they probably don't want to work on a marriage counseling thing, but there's like, that's under the arts umbrella, right? Like, we're trying to, and having almost more of a spreadsheet, or sorry, a table, like, you know, wiki election is dealing with politics and sense making, like having it more that there are these categories and we're dealing with all of them, right? Like solution raising, what category is that? All of them, because we could do a solution raising all of them, but none of them at the same time, because until you've done a solution raising in it, we're not, you know what I mean? Like it's, they are hard to categorize, but with our various ones, being able to figure out what we already have on the table and how would we present that, and how would we do a criteria of is it Game B or not? Because as we, I mean, there are some projects I don't think are Game B because they don't have potential or they don't have, but I don't get to be the arbiter of that. Like what, having a very, like to me in Game B, it's like, is it adjacent possible? Is it big future utopia? Those aren't good or bad. It's just, I want to know, right? I want to know Ramsey's common planet is big picture utopia and he's got stuff he's got working through the pipeline to get there, right? But like, I don't even know, do we make our stuff fit into theirs, in which case we got to figure that out, or is it, does that become ours and we've got to figure out how to do the projects, and we can't decide that because we don't have wiki, right? So it would be,
I mean, it's an open wiki, so anyone can sign up and make changes.
Mhm.
And I think that that's the intent of the project. They haven't put approvals needed in the system, so I think their idea is it's a community built thing. I don't know, I would completely reformat these pages because I really think that this user experience is pretty horrific. So I might reach out to them on the site and say, hey, can I try like redesigning this page and explaining why I think I don't like having to click through two different things and then just seeing a name of a project and having no idea what it's about until I click through it, and then having to back up 3 pages to find the next one. So we could discuss. So I would say that if we want to participate in this, then we just go in the Game B wiki and say, hey, we had some ideas on how to improve this, how to put our content in, and then we each need to decide whether we want to maintain our content in 4 or 5 different places, or and does this meet our needs? And then we don't need the NAC site. Of course, the NAC site's a lot, has a lot better in a lot of ways, and we haven't seen what Carrie's doing on the other side. So just so we know what everything's going on, and you know, we could like Jubilee, like you're saying, we could go to them and say, hey, you know, we'd like to take this page over. Do y'all want us to coordinate with you before we make changes, or just make changes? Y'all tell us if you don't like it. It depends on how much they care about it. If they're trying to do the whole wiki, I think they'd be happy to have someone take over a section of the site so that they can focus on the overall thing. But I don't know for a fact that that's what they like. So, but we could just ask them in the wiki
Yeah.
Facebook page.
Plus,
So
then
we
if
can
we
do
are
all that.
taking it over, then we can figure out what is the best user experience for people coming in. Like, well, people want to find a project. They want to know who to contact, who to, you know, like they don't want to go through, like you said, all of the, I just looked at it. Yeah, it's horrific. Like because it's not even, you can't, like it's if we had stuff under all of those categories and you clicked on agriculture and there was 20 different projects, but there aren't. Like you click on transition B and there's nothing. And so knowing, yeah, there's many different ways to categorize it that isn't quite working. And it makes sense. We're in the projects, right? We're dealing with this stuff with our projects, but also with is this a game B project? Is it, how do we criteria that? Which categories are this? That although it's going to be not an easy thing, it will be a good thing for projects to go through this. And it'll, yeah, I think it feeds back into it. Both our individual projects and the OmniWin TogetherTec.
And we kind of need to figure that out for our own, like for the NAC site and for the, and I don't know if we've kind of sat down and wrote out what our suggestions are. Like, I think one is, you know, if the person's going to be represented, they need to be active in the Game B community. I don't think we should be adding projects that are, or if we are, it should be closely designated. Like, here are projects that no one's in Game B doing it, but it fits the Game B things, but then who's going to maintain that listing, right? And so I think it needs to be clear. These are the ones, because people are participating in this computer, these are the ones we think are interesting and you may want to look at, which is fine to have all those, but someone needs to agree to maintain it.
If we want to add those, we may also want to reach out to the people involved in that project to make sure that we know who to reach out to so we can put it on there, but also say, hey, we're a part of this community that might be able to provide you with some people to work with you. If you want to get that, please, you know, join us here. Here's sort of the level of participation that you need to do, even if it's just joining a group and watching a page.
Yeah. To be clear, I don't think we should include those. But if someone wants to, I would say, well, then you need to maintain it. You need to do all that stuff.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of talking about bridging that gap. Like, I don't think that we should either, but if we hear about a project that sounds cool, maybe do a bit of outreach.
Well, yeah, I'm quite up for that. As I said, I'm a bit wary of sort of like putting projects on a list who I've got no contact with, and I don't know whether or what information they've got going on, and I don't know what stage the project is at. Because like some people just, and would you put people's ideas up there as well? Would you, you know, if someone's working on an idea that they're working towards, and it's, you know, they're doing bits and pieces, would you have a different stage of what status the project was in, like idea, planning, development, you know what I mean? So is the different categories, because that's what I was going to ask you for what I'm designing and what I'm putting together from the information. I've took the categories and everything that's off the NAC site, but I was just wondering whether you wanted, whether it was an idea, whether it was, you know, in planning, development, already up and running. You know what I mean? Because that's, you know, that's not clear. And as I said, if you've got people who you haven't spoke to, you don't know what stage they're at, you don't know what info that they want made public, you know, you don't know whether they're ready. So I think sort of like having some sort of conversation with them to find out what it is, or even if they're actually still doing it or they've given up, or, you know what I mean, or they're collaborating with somebody else, you know what I mean? So I think that would be good to know.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is I do worry about the amount of work for all this. So a rule that I kind of like, or a guideline, is that the person who wants to put the project in the directory needs to put it in there, and they need to maintain it, and it shouldn't be incumbent on anyone else. And then I'd almost like to have it to where, you know, if there's no updates in like 6 months or a year, it just falls off into the old category and it's further down and not in the main list. That's what I'd like to have in a system. I don't know if anyone else wants different stuff.
I think, and this is, I think what you just said added to that, because there's the people who created Game B are considered very Game B, and they've left and they've have their own shit going on, right? Eric Weinstein's doing Unity 2020. Jordan Hall has Civium. Those to me are Game B projects, but they're not under the Game B umbrella. And the people who are interested in one would be interested in the other. Then there's people in Game B participating in Game B who have their own projects that aren't Game B, but very Game B, like the Stoa and Rebel Wisdom and Future Thinkers that have them, like they're still very broad. Some of them are broadcast and some of them aren't, right? They all also have their own clubs and stuff to participate in, how much money they are and I want to know what that information is before I get involved and who to contact in that. But if they're not updating it, right? If David Fuller isn't coming and updating the Rebel Wisdom one, and Mike and UV aren't coming in and doing the Future Thinkers, that's us doing work to get them more people. It's not like it's going to be the opposite and people are going to find us through them and then, go to other things. At the same time, those are things that I think Game B people are going to be interested in. So I like the idea of only having things that there are Game B people in who want to put them there, in which case we might get Rebel Wisdom, we might get Future Thinkers because they might put them in there, right? But yeah,
Yeah, and we have and there's the Game B wiki that'll list like periphery similar things already in a list somewhere, and there's Game B news. What is the one that Nick is doing? Anyway, so yeah, there's a couple like information depots for Game B and Game B-ish. But I think we do it. I think projects like for people that are, and then having some way to sort and filter and find what you can participate in would be helpful, which was what we've kind of built in NAC and stuff. So I'm happy going to the site. Now, I would just go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and make a change and put a link to our NAC site. And Carrie, do you want a link to your site yet, or is it not there yet?
I'm not quite there yet. As I said, I've just got to. I said this week it's kind of been like, don't know what's been wrong with this week. It's just everything just kind of up in the air for a bit. So I'm starting again on Monday. Because as I said, everything's gone quite pear-shaped in a way. So I'm just going to give myself a few days off from myself and see how it goes from there. And Monday, more focused and less crap.
And then I could just start the conversation with them in the Game B wiki space to say, hey, we're Game B projects. If y'all want us to, like, I don't know the word, manage this page and group of pages and facilitate that, then we're happy to consider putting it in an umbrella. I don't want to make a promise that we're going to do it because we may choose Carrie's page. We may choose a NAC. We may build something separate. We may do all of the above. But I think just putting the links and then saying, hey, find out from them how possessive they are of that page. And if they're not, then we can brainstorm some more. So I can do all that.
Because the other risk of us doing anything on that is that the wiki has been canceled so many times that it's like, and then rebooted and stuff, that it's like, well, if we put that work in it and it gets rebooted again, is that work still there? Or does it just go by the wayside altogether? Whereas that doesn't, like, there's a possibility of doing the NAC or the Drupal one and then linking to it from there, right? So if they're up and running, hey, we have this all covered. And doing it.
Yeah, and it may be taking that whole page down and just putting a link to NAC and say, hey, if you want to know about the projects, here's how you get to it. I don't think they would like if we did that. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility. And yeah, that's a good point. We need to make sure we don't put a lot of effort into something that may not be long term.
Does the information overlap much between the wiki and the wiki, which is, by the way, it deserves a better graphics and user interface, because right now it's not very inviting.
Are you talking about you don't like that specific one, or just Wikimedia in general? Because it's Wikimedia.
Both,
It's It's not like a custom built site. They just threw Wikimedia on there. And there are plugins that help, but they have a very strict concept. So if you don't like the UI, it's more like we just need to tell them to go with a different tech.
Okay, that's also possibility. But I wondered if there's overlap of information between the wiki and that big Google document about GameB, which is big, and I didn't read them both. So I just wanted to ask if you have an idea how similar they are, if they contain the same information, or is it like...
I don't recall. I remember that Google Doc. There's also the doc. There's still like 5 or 6 resources like this. I'm sure they all overlap to some extent, but I don't know how much. And people are reluctant to consolidate. So yeah, what was your thought on that? If they overlap a lot, did we want to suggest finishing it, or are we just curious?
Consolidation, which is I always suggest consolidation, but given how difficult it is even to define GameB as a thing, and given that it should not be even defined, as people say, and I was thinking for the past 20 minutes about why is that, and what crossed my mind is it's similar to how you cannot explain, for example, riding a bicycle to someone who cannot ride, and it seems that there is something similar here at play. Like we can ride bicycles, right? And we kind of have shared understanding of what it is and how it feels and what it does. It's, on the other hand, difficult to explain to someone who cannot do it. And what makes it more interesting is bicycles are just a subcategory of all things that can be that you can ride on. So if the general population of GameB space on Facebook they ride bicycles, and then someone comes in who rides a motorcycle or something even like weirder, then the discussion if it's GameB or not, it's got really tricky. I'm not sure if I make myself clear, but it's weird that it's so difficult to explain and define something that something like this.
And a lot of people don't think we should define it, partially because of what you said, because it's like riding a bike, and part of that's just your subconscious brain learning. But although I think there's a lot of things you could know about riding a bike that would make the learning experience a lot easier if people would tell you, like the faster you're going, the easier it is, because it's centripetal force, and people don't explain that to kids, and then you end up going slow and falling off all the time. But yeah, so people don't want to define GameB, and so that's another reason why these kind of things have difficulty, and they don't want a canonical definition, so they want these multiple different views and stuff, and they want it to be to some extent hard. I think Ghibli's talked about that effort is part of the value. But it breaks my OCD brain.
Yeah, and I think when we had the previous meeting on sort of what is a GameB project, we sort of had some ideas, but it might just end up being only being defined by what it's not. And we, might sort of have the blanket statement on, hey, we'll let almost anything in, but we always reserve the right as a group to say, "Ooh, no, go away," right? Like, there might be certain things out of the gate, like, hey, if your project is advocating any sort of genocide, no, you don't, you can't come in. And that may sound silly, but some of the conversations that we've had happen in the GameB group, you may not have thought that you had to have a rule around that, but turns out that you do. So it may just be a list of things that it isn't. That might be an easier way to appease the people who don't want to define it, or just be sort of open and say, hey, this is more under the TogetherTec umbrella. We're like, a group of people's idea about one thing that Game B could be. So we aren't defining Game B, but we're sort of operating a Game B-ish group of projects that you disagree with our, what we say a Game B project is, then come join us and have a conversation. The whole point is that it's not like just me or just Jubilee or just Bentley saying what is or isn't. It's right now, it's 5 of us, and then hopefully it's 10 of us, and hopefully it's 100 of us saying what it is and what it isn't. And we aren't saying as a part of Game B, but it's sort of Game B adjacent. It's one, trial run at Game B, which I think is hard to be a Game B project so that we're sort of being a part of that community and getting that audience, but also being open and saying, hey, if you disagree with what we're saying, that's fine. You can start your own, or you can join us and try to, add in your opinion and see who agrees.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things, just not so much in Game B itself, but one of the MetaProject that keeps coming up in solution raising is the Yelp for apps. Like, that we need to know what's going on in tech and how and what I can actually use and what's in the making and when is it going to be available, and one for the greater, in fact Mark just posted it, right, something in a greater like what to buy. Is it Game B-ish, right? If I'm buying deodorant, what's the most Game B deodorant I can buy, or something along those lines. One of the other things, the third thing which I'm getting, is like a Dragon's Den for Game B projects, right? We're not just, because we have no funding to give. So it's like we're billionaires who are like, yes, great, we'll fund it. But to actually like have criteria of like, is this possible? What's the like MVP? What is the thing that we could do right now? Or is it something that needs like a resource-based economy? You need to have basically the whole planet on board. Like, partly to put it in those categories, not to say it's good or bad. And then how to do that in a way that's not broadcast, only 5 people get to decide whether your project is good enough. Because, and that was the conversation that I had this last week. It was like, okay, maybe I don't see the thing in this project, but has anyone contacted you and been like, oh my God, I want to get involved, or I've had a similar idea? Because there's ideas that come up again and again in Game B, right? Should somebody create a social media platform? That would be awesome. Like, but it's good to know, because it's clearly an idea that's needed, but whatever we're doing isn't quite working to get it out into the world, right? Because it's like, well, yeah, there's dozens of people who think they have the concept. How do we bring them together and work through what that looks like? There's people who have one-off projects that are really amazing ideas. And I don't even know what that would look like, but something along the lines of a Dragon's Den. Hey, is this financially, where are you getting your financing from? Because a lot of them are just like, wait, is this sustainable? Is this actually, which doesn't need to be necessarily. There's ideas I have that are, charity. People are going to give money to it. People are going to, but anyway, having criteria, then saying, yes, you're.
Yeah, even sustainability, though, as far as something people will donate to, just kind of throw that out there. It does need some input. It could just be volunteering or donations. Yeah, I was thinking, I was throwing out the idea, what if we had that, except it was a bunch of like software devs that would volunteer their time, assuming it's a tech solution, right? That would do, like if we did have your, not quite 10,000 people, but a group, a dozen or so of volunteers that would know marketing and all, or whatever the thing would need, and then it would be a Dragon's Den thing where we have 2 or 3 people come in with their ideas, we give them feedback and say, okay, yeah, it's ready for this group to throw fire on it with, throw fuel on the fire with their time as opposed to money. That might be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So instead of like, I'm interested, I'll give you, $8 million for 10% stake. It's, I'm interested, I can spend, 5 hours a week for the next 3 weeks to see where we can get it. Yeah. If you do a good enough job pitching it. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I'd like that idea. Obviously, like finance, legal, and marketing. I've been on the hunt for finance, legal, and marketing people, and seeing who's kind of interested in that area. Which I haven't. There's not that very many. So, because I know a lot of people have signed up to the life coaching thing, you know what I mean, for the finance and financial planning. So I'm hopefully have a word with Luke to see how that went, because as I said, I would like to get maybe like they set up these mastermind groups sort of thing for people, and maybe as you say, like the Dragon's Den, go and sit, this is what I'm doing, because like what happened to me is like with mine, and I've got 2 people now helping me, and they've given me all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, do I have to? And they're like, yeah. So they're bombarding me with research now of what I've got to look at, and they keep asking me what are my income streams, and I think to develop different income streams so you're not dependent on the one. So I think ideas on how to create different income streams from what you're doing, and having someone and maybe going through that with them. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's very game A, and I've got to fill in a kind of business game A plan for them to turn it into sort of like a game B plan. You know what I mean? Because the guy I'm working with needs to be able to take their language and turn it into what could be, better and stuff like that, and then go and speak to them, but be able to speak to them because it's been done in their language anyway. You know what I mean? But go in with the idea, well, this, that. So I'm finding that really stressful, because like there was a woman from the Business Gateway who I met the other day, and she's like, yes, you want to do this, you want to do that. And I was just like, you're just funneling me down that road, you know what I mean? And I was just like, I've tried that 17 years ago, you know what I mean? And she's trying to push me down that. And I was like, I don't want to play out in that. And they're like, well, you're going to have to because of this, that, and the other. And she said, oh, well, we've got no money to give you. I said, well, I didn't think you would. And even if you did have, you probably wouldn't give me it anyway. You know what I mean? So, but I suppose there's webinars and stuff. So maybe what game A in terms of business development and stuff out there, and then we can have a look at that and then see what we can maybe do, because I'm fed up of people saying, well, you've got to tick the boxes. I don't want there to be any boxes to tick, you know what I mean? So I'm sick of ticking boxes, because half the time I never fit into the boxes. So but I need to know what's accepted, what's standard, and then be able to turn it into, right, okay, that's the standard bullshit. We've got something better over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah, it's part of creating game B is like you have to work within game A as well, because you just aren't.
Which
my biggest
that is something like I've got a game A project that I've kind of stopped working on because I didn't find it that interesting and it didn't match my skill sets, but I still think that there's a possibility there. But part of me like wants to find a spot to sort of put it into like the TogetherTec type thing to help fund projects like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that might be interesting if there was a way to say like, hey, here's the obvious game B projects, and here's projects that in their nature are kind of game A, but trying to be done in as game B way as possible, and where the end result is any profits go back into these projects to help fund, right? So like it's got multiple income streams, so it's stable in a game A sense, but for game B purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think our Saturday call is kind of, I mean, it was based off, I just forgot the word that you
Mastermind?
used. Mastermind. Yeah, it's based off the mastermind concept, and that's where, I mean, we're not experts in finance and legal, but I could tell you, unless you have, 100 or 1,000 customers, you shouldn't be considered about legal. You shouldn't be creating an LLC or whatever it is like that. A lot of people do that stuff way too early. They get business cards and they do the legal stuff, and it's like, you got to know whether your idea works before you even bother with that.
Yeah, I will say on that note, the weird exception is something like Kickstarter, or because you can go from 0 customers to 10,000 customers, and if you don't incorporate first, you have to claim that as personal income, and then
yeah,
and that's the only reason why I incorporated WikiLection, and now I kind of wish that I didn't, but only because the Kickstarter didn't take off. If it did, I would have been glad I did. So it's
I don't know how it is in Canada. In the U.S., it's not a huge tax difference.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if I'm doing a personal business, I can still write everything off without incorporating. So there's not a huge difference. The only thing is if you have partners and you want to make sure that you have equity, then you have to do all that.
Yeah.
but still, it'd be better to write something down on a napkin and legalize it later, unless you're investing money. If you're just doing volunteer, if you're just doing sweat equity,
Yeah.
the legal stuff is just overkill and a distraction until you know the idea works. And then if you did a Kickstarter and it got real popular, although
Totally.
these days
Yeah.
it's hard to get a popular Kickstarter without doing a couple months of marketing beforehand,
Yeah,
right?
which, yeah, looking back, I did my Kickstarter too early, but it was like I wasn't doing anything, so I'm like, all right, I'll start here. That sounds like an option, and it did get the ball rolling, but
And that used to work. Yeah.
yeah,
Because one of the
Did you
things I would like
Sorry.
to see in the game B space is not like what is my personal vision of what I think is the best project, but actually like what are the game B projects, not just projects, but including Stoa, Rebel, all of that. And like if you're trying to do the interpersonal work, where do we think the best place to go is? i.e. that's where we send new people, right? Like when people want to do the personal work, is it John Vervaeke? Is it Stoa? Is it, and possibly just having a price comparison and a time commitment comparison. And under the umbrella also, if we had the best option for game B that was going to actually create game B, what is it? And it isn't like we have money to fund, but people who do have money to fund and we're looking for something, if like we as a group, Ian, all of game B was like, this is the one we think has the most potential. Like I really like for manufacturing, wow, CubeSpawn, I can't remember his name at the moment. James, I'm not gonna remember it. But it's so much money, right? It's not the same as funding the smaller projects. Like he doesn't need that much money. His project needs money, right? Whereas he's like, I can live off of nothing, but his project costs a lot of money. And there's projects that are the opposite of that. They cost very little and have impact. But like to actually be able to, like all of game B asks is the Dragon Den, right? People put up their project and we ask questions and then say, hey, which one is the best one? Which one are we sponsoring this month, right? To say that if we had money, here's who we would give it to without, and then also there's the word, says these are the people who you also should give your time to, right? That we're endorsing the word I'm looking for, to say that. But anyway, that's a completely side project.
Have you done a solution raising on? I'm just trying to think back on what you've done. It seems to think that there was something we did kind of like. Well, I guess we did what would manifest game B or something. There was one where we did something like that, but maybe it would be interesting to have that discussion as a solution raising or a Idea Cafe. What project do we think would accelerate this manifestation of game B? Or projects. And honestly, to me, I think it would be that thing where you're saying, oh, I'm coming in, how do I get educated? How do I do that personal work? So I'd like to see an application that guides people, that helps them do self-assessment tests to figure out what things they need to work on the most, and then points them to the free and the cost resources and help them choose it out, and have that be community curated, so I could go on there, and so anyone in the community could go on there and either write an algorithm that says, here's the education resources I want, or put in resources and links and build curriculum. That, I think, would be the most effective tool. And that's my second one after Reason Score. But I'm happy to work. If other people really say, oh, that's it, then I'd be happy to collaborate with some people on that. I think that's a really neat thing.
Does personal development encompass that? I could do a
Yeah.
solution raising on personal development and that piece of it, and especially in game B. I don't know if it'll come to that conclusion, but that is the
Right. Yeah. I think definitely one about personal development. I think part of that will become on is there any tools that we can do to grease that personal development, make it to where people fall into the pit of success rather than confusion.
Someone ironically did one on like self-help industry, but with self-help industry people, not game B people. And under the self-help umbrella, most of the people who are in there also want jobs in that same arena. So it's really hard for them to picture getting rid of those jobs. Like, I'm like, how do we have coaching without a coach?
Right.
We
You
don't.
just scared
We need a
everybody.
coach. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, I want to put you out of a job, but it's for the betterment of humanity. But yeah.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
realistically,
right.
yeah, I mean, I would think that they would best spend their, well, people always need individual one-on-one coaching, but to make it less necessary, and the things, they should have resources they could go to learn on their own, and then have the coach help them focus that, right? So the coaching, and I think really honestly, this is where education goes in general, is a teacher shouldn't be lecturing. You should be watching the best video about that topic, or the 5 best videos in the whole world, and then the teacher comes in and answers questions and helps you through that cognitive thing, or if it wasn't explained well, here's a resource that's more visual, you're more of a visual learner, that sort of thing, which that's all in my idea the same tool, whether it's completely self-directed or something used in schools. And then something also to where you can kind of track your learning, and just like in video games where they have the lesson tree, once you have algebra, they can go to trigonometry and stuff like that, and you can check them off, and you can show other people trees, and that'd be great, because then if I need someone that knows how to do social media, I could just do a search, and people that have gone through the social media courses would pop up. Anyways, so that's an idea I've been rumbling around the background. It's very similar people have been talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's always similar came up to the education one, the first solution raising. Sorry, Matthias.
There was a podcast recently, I think, on Rebel Wisdom, including Jamie Wheel, and he said something, I need to listen to it again, but it was something about the hammer of Thor being that one tool that no one can basically lift up, but there is one person who can. And that the idea was that everyone has its own hammer, and the only thing that only they can do, and discovering that potential, and that not destiny maybe, but discovering that who I am. It sounded like something like that. Discovering my own orbit, and being able to find that hammer that belongs to me, and only I am able to lift it up and use it. That sounds very like Matthew, what you said. Something application or a tool that helps people to find the place.
I whinge at the idea of there only being one, or only one person can pick it up. But I think there's hammers lying everywhere, and there's a lot of them that no one's picking up. And some people can pick up that hammer better and more easily than other people. So it is an efficiency thing. But I think a lot of times when people say my one way, this is the one love of my life, or it's no, there's a lot of them. Some are easier. Let's find the most efficient for you, and it can change, and in another year you may grow, and there may be some other way that you can really help society. But I think a tool that says, how can we take this one person and aim them at society the most efficient way, and just make the world better for everyone. And then if we did that for a large number of people, or made resources for everyone to where they can be their most efficient and happiest, that would be amazing.
That's going to be TogetherTec right there. If that was coming up with my 5 questions of who am I, who are my people, what is my purpose, what do I need, and then what am I willing to let go of? It doesn't have to be under my umbrella, but something like that, where it's you want to know who you are, follow this path. You want to know who your people are, use these tools. You want to know, and then creating the tool that does all of those things, and being able to figure out your purpose, your hammer, your stuff.
We're circling around that idea together.
If you want to know who you are, call me at 4 a.m. in the morning. And then
well, you'll probably tell us where to go if it's 4 a.m. in the morning.
Is anyone a good person at 4 o'clock your morning?
I tell you, I was up at 4 a.m. driving someone to a hospital for surgery, but that's a different story. Anyways,
I did have one more thing on the agenda, which was just, this might be a better thing to wait for 2 weeks once we've maybe played with the calendar piece, is we talked about doing every other week of a roundtable at 2 p.m. or possibly having one at 2 p.m., even doing one monthly at 2 p.m. so the Aussies and New Zealanders can, come in and do it when it's not, especially since it's at 9 a.m. This one is a little more doable for them, even though it's ridiculously early. 9 a.m. is a ridiculous time for them. So just wanted to re-bring it up, if anyone would be open to doing the 2 p.m. one. I know I'm not as on at 2 p.m. as I can be at 9 in the morning. But
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, that would hopefully be on the weekend, but
yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm happy moving 1 or 2 that way. I'd like to double check, make sure someone will show up from that time zone before we do. But yes.
Yeah. So we could just ask also in the project space, right? Like if we had it at 2 p, like 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 5 hours later than normal, who would show up for that on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Who would find that valuable?
calendar tool, does that have some sort of a sign up?
It's got yeah, you can actually, as I said, you can just look at it, or you can actually sign up and then add. But it's also the one I set up has got all the different time zones on it, because I didn't want it just just for the one. So I think whatever you sign up, it'll show you in your country what time that is. So yeah.
So, Carrie, are you going to want to post that as a thing, and maybe unless I'll look at it in projects?
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, so that's what I was meaning. So like the Saturday round tables always same time, and the board meetings every other with the IdeaCafes, and the links are always the same links for every single one of them. But no.
It's a new link for every single one of them.
Right. Oh, it's a new link. So would you want me to just put, this is what we're doing, this is what time? And because if someone looks, so say like if you wanted to send the calendar to Kylie, right, and she just looks at the calendar, how would we tell her where, you said you have different links every time. If you could have a same link, is there any chance of getting the same link for them, or just
We don't.
No.
We could use my Zoom, but then we'd be using my Zoom. We wouldn't be live, and that's kind of the point of the roundtables and these.
Right.
Is theoretically, people are watching and know that we exist and come be part of it. But I still feel I'm going to put it on my to-do list.
No, I do have a paid Zoom account, and it does allow streaming to Facebook and YouTube. I think I haven't done it yet, but it's on the option. The problem with having a consistent link posted on the internet is that you will get 13-year-olds putting ugly things on there. So I don't know a good solution on that. Except,
Yeah,
I mean, you could. They have the waiting room, and I could only let in people that.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, so like if they're like people who aren't on Facebook, maybe they might want to come and join or whatever, or if they have no time for whatever. And if you're sending them the link to the calendar, they're wanting to know when the link's going up, and the link goes up a few days in the Facebook group. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to think of a way to point them.
I'm having trouble finding the link in Facebook every
Yeah,
day, just because it doesn't show up. So I don't know if Jubilee, if you're putting the link somewhere, and then Carrie can put it in the calendar. Or if someone wouldn't mind maintaining the events. I know for Jubilee it's a pain to create an event instead of a post, but then you could always just hit the events thing, but then we're still maintaining 2 calendars, right?
When we create StreamYard, it creates the posting, and so then you'd have to also then create an event, and every one would have a double. It would have the event and the broadcast, and so it's just for this in particular where we actually go live to Facebook.
Right.
It's even more weird than with like the solution.
Yeah, it's easier for people to find events.
Yeah, which would be nice.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could create a link to a Facebook search for. I might play around and see if I can figure out a link that'll always pull up the latest one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could post that link everywhere, and then it would it would search Facebook for I know the Facebook search sucks. I'll play around and see if I can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, because the other option, which we talked about before, and I didn't actually research it, is something like a Bitly, which Bitly does not have this, but where we have the same URL, but we change the back end, right? So every week we're putting in a new StreamYard, but they're following the same link every week, but we are doing the back end, changing it out. And I don't know if that exists. Bitly doesn't seem to have it, at least.
It does sound like that would have the same problem as just having the static link, where if somebody, if a 13-year-old or somebody, with nefarious purposes wanted to, they could still just have that link.
But then we'd have StreamYard, right? So StreamYard for the 2, although project roundtables, we might want to switch over to Zoom anyway if we get bigger, so we can break off into smaller
Right.
groups. But because we can see them, right? So we don't add them to the broadcast. Zoom isn't like that. It's a waiting room with a name. You can't see them and talk to them before they
Right.
are allowed in.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
nice about StreamYard is you can see the
Yeah.
picture down below and like, I don't know that person, or like I can tell they don't have pants on or whatever it is. Like,
they're missing pants. Like these days, who isn't missing pants? I mean, like, come on, who's wearing
Yeah,
pants? on
the rules do not stand up. We don't have to wear pants, right?
Yeah.
Let's just
I
be
shouldn't be able
clear.
to tell that you're not wearing
Right.
pants. That's the rule.
Okay, right. We don't. Yeah, we don't care whether you wear pants or not. We just don't want to know.
Exactly.
Just don't stand up.
Right. Yeah.
Perfect. All right,
All right,
so we're back tomorrow for the roundtable. It is at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the normal time. Come bring your project, bring your ideas, and otherwise, anyone else have anything to wrap up for the board meeting before we?
Quick question for Jubilee and Carrie. Have you guys been getting the messages for all the comments being left on the YouTube videos? I'm not sure if that's only me or if you guys are also getting those.
Well, I have to log in as TogetherTec to see them, but it was only
I get
just
emails.
one person. Oh no, I don't. We don't get emails. No.
Okay.
just-
Okay.
just
Yeah, because
one.
one person has been watching like all the videos and adding a bunch of and like they're real comments. Like they're
Yeah.
they timestamp and
Thanks,
it's a person
Steven.
with like I think 26 videos on the channel. It's some guy in Germany.
Yeah, he also emailed me at TogetherTec, which
Okay,
then
cool.
Anna had to forward to me because she's getting the emails, but that's a whole other issue. Yeah, I don't know how to, because he seems to be like he wants to get involved in like a tech cooperative, but I don't know how to do that.
Right.
when
Yeah,
it's
I just
like, if you don't want to come to Facebook or you don't want to like, I'm like, how do we coordinate this? I don't know. But that's the.
And that might help if we get the calendar tool online. We might be able to put the links there and then just say go there and you can
Ooh,
see that
yeah.
stuff. Which that's something that like if the NAC tool took off, that's something that was built in. Is people who were RSVP'd to the event could see the URL, and people who weren't couldn't. So you could see what time it was, but only once you had signed up for it, you could actually see the link. But that's harder to set up and manage with NAC. So I mean, if this calendar tool is easier to use for that, then that might be a better way to approach
The
it.
calendar tool looks like they have their scaled pricing, but it's not per person. So it is like $20 a month, but overall. And so that might be something maybe at some point.
That's not bad.
Like, and that's their second tier one that they offer free for 3 months if we're wanting to use that. But right now we can use the free one until we figure out we want to pay for it. But if it is the thing that encompasses everything we need to get people to our stuff, then $20 a month seems like an okay.
Totally.
All right. Goodbye, YouTube and Facebook. See you tomorrow morning.
Bye.
Bye.